Democrat spokesperson Jess Brown-Fuller.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I wish to begin by thanking members across both chambers for their work in getting this legislation to the place it is today. In particular, thanks to the Government for their engagement with my Lord's colleagues and myself on this bill, and in particular to the Minister, who I've met multiple times on various issues within the bill. A key cornerstone of our justice system must be the support and protection of victims and survivors, ensuring that those who have suffered at the hands of others can go on to live a life without fear and not be defined by the actions of those who harmed them. This will only happen by putting their voices at the heart of the justice system, ensuring that justice is served quickly, with properly funded support, protection from perpetrators and rehabilitation of offenders to reduce reoffending. And there are countless examples of this failing to happen, which is why we in the Liberal Democrats have welcomed the intention and many of the measures in this bill. Firstly, we are really pleased with the Government's commitment to undertake a study into the use of AI transcription in criminal courts in order to explore whether this can reduce both the cost and time involved in the provision of transcripts for victims. Myself and my colleague Baroness Brinton in the other place have both tabled amendments to the bill aimed at expanding the provision of transcripts for victims at various stages, and this has in part been inspired by the tireless work of my honourable friend, the Honourable Member for Richmond, whom I once again thank. It should never be the case that victims are asked to pay thousands of pounds to access their transcripts, many of whom might not have even been in the courtroom to hear that sentence being handed down. The argument in opposition to our amendments has regarded the cost of redaction in producing the transcripts. It's very clear that there are technological solutions in today's age, and we therefore welcome the Government's recognition that more action is needed. We will continue to push for greater provision of free transcripts in the Courts and Tribunals Bill that is currently going through Public Bill Committee. I also want to thank the Government for their commitment to review the provision of service to families whose relatives have been murdered abroad. This follows an exemplary amendment first tabled by my honourable friend, the member for Maidenhead, raised due to issues faced by one of his constituents. It's clear that there have been issues regarding provision of supporting information for these families going through these horrific circumstances. The commitment in the other place of a joint review into these provisions between the MOJ and FCDO is a welcome step, and we really look forward to the result of that review, at which point we will consult with victims groups, ensuring that the provisions work satisfactorily for victims. And I will take the opportunity to mention to the Minister again, she will be aware that the Murdered Abroad annual conference is on the 13th of June, and I know the organisers happy to... And I'm pleased to hear that the Minister is going to be attending, because I know they were really keen to engage with her so that they may continue to see progress. I move now to Government Amendments 5B, C, D, E and F and 6B and C on the amendment paper today, which all impact the unduly lenient scheme. Again, I want to thank Baroness Brinton in the other place for her tireless work on these amendments with the Government, and the late Helen Newlove, the Victims Commissioner, and the Victims Commissioner for London. I also want to specifically pay tribute to the bravery of Tracy Hanson and Katie Brett, whose campaigns on these issues, in light of their own families' experiences, have no doubt played such a pivotal part in the Government's commitment to these amendments. Tracy going through the trial of the murder of her own son Josh with no knowledge of the unduly lenient scheme is exactly the example that I hope these amendments will address, and are testament to her tireless efforts and the memory of her son. And as the Honourable Member for Blackpool North and Fleetwood so eloquently expressed, Katie's tireless campaigning for her sister Sasha is an extraordinary example of fighting an injustice, not for themselves, but for others in the future who may suffer a loss like hers. In particular, Amendments 5B, C, D and E and F allow out-of-time applications to be made up to 6 months after sentencing. This is vital for families unaware of the scheme who did not submit an application prior to the 28-day limit, and will benefit many who experience the same heartache and pain that Tracy did. The Government's provision of a statutory duty for victims to be informed of the unduly lenient scheme in Amendments 6B and C are so vital, and should provide victims with a clearer picture of the options they are entitled to following sentencing, because the Minister is right to say many of the campaigners have not just asked for an extension, it's about knowing what is available to them and making sure that that is a mandatory commitment, that they will be told that that is available to them as an option after sentencing. I'm really grateful to the Minister for meeting with me recently and then coming forward forward with these amendments, and we are really pleased to support them today. Finally, I turn to Lord's Amendments 4B and C regarding private prosecutions. As I'm sure many across the House will agree, the ability for criminal prosecutions to be brought forward outside of the regular processes of the authorities, providing an alternative method for charities and commercial organisations, is essential in delivering justice for many victims whose cases have not been taken on by the state. This is especially pertinent against the backdrop of stretched resources that the police and CPS face. We in the Liberal Democrats, including my friend the learned Lord Marks in the other place, were concerned about the provisions in Clause 12, which would give the government power to limit possible cost reimbursement. We have argued this risks organisations presenting cases being put off by not being able to recover their own costs. We therefore support the government amendments in lieu of amendments 4B and C, which will mandate the need for an impact assessment and consultation with the Law Society, Bar Council and other organisations relevant to the provisions prior to their implementation. This will allow time to make a fair assessment of the need for and result of the government's provision, ensuring that the government isn't risking undermining the ability of organisations and charities to bring forward private prosecutions. So I want to again thank Lord Marks in the other place for his work with the government to get this amendment in place, and I encourage those across the House to support it. Thank you.